Hamilton's program for fixing the economy consisted of three goals. First, he wanted to establish financial stability. Second, he wanted to be friendly to the most powerful financial interests. And finally, he wanted to encourage economic development. Hamilton was a Federalist who believed in a strong central government and wanted the economy to be modeled after that of Great Britain. In order to accomplish his goals, he came up with a 5-part program. The first part would be to create confidence in the credit of the U.S. so that people would be willing to buy government bonds. In order to do this, Hamilton wanted the country to begin paying off their debts from the Revolutionary War so that it would promote confidence that any future loans would be repaid in full. Once the U.S. showed it was serious about paying back its debt, they would be able to borrow at lower interest rates. Hamilton also had the federal government assume state debts so that the two parties weren't competing over tax revenue. Second, Hamilton wanted to create a new national debt. So, he wanted to pay back the old debt in order to create a new debt. However, he did have a strategy in mind here. The government's creditors, that is, the people or institutions the government owed money to, would be issued interest-bearing bonds. This would give wealthy investors an economic stake in the well-being of the country because the better the country did, the more likely they would be repaid. This would ensure that they would promote the United States as a sound investment. Third, Hamilton wanted to create a national bank. This bank would be a private corporation, but it would hold public funds, print paper money, and make loans to the government. Stockholders would then be able to profit from this bank. Hamilton knew that the country needed a form of money to increase trade. Once the government showed it was serious about paying back its debt, securities, or certificates of government debt, would be traded and used as currency just like paper money. However, these securities would be awfully large, so the bank would accept them in exchange for bank stock and provide the equivalent value in banknotes or paper money in return. Fourth, Hamilton wanted to tax whiskey in order to bring in revenue. The last part of Hamilton's plan would not be implemented with the rest of his program, but would become accepted at various points during the 19th century. Hamilton, ever the proponent of industry, wanted high tariffs and a ban on exports of raw materials in order to help new manufacturers. He also called for subsidies in which the government would help industry. Canals and roads would be built to ease trade. In order to deal with the labor shortage, factories using steam-powered machinery would be constructed and would employ women and children while also drawing in immigrants looking for work. There was opposition to Hamilton's program, especially from Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. While Hamilton wanted to promote manufacturing and urban growth, Jefferson and Madison promoted the U.S. as a republic of independent farmers. Hamilton promoted government subsidies and tariffs to protect certain businesses or industries, while Jefferson and Madison supported the idea of free trade, in which the government did not use any subsidies because that would be showing favoritism for certain industries or businesses. Jefferson also argued that the national bank was unconstitutional because the Constitution does not explicitly state that Congress has the power to establish the national bank. However, Hamilton's supporters justified the bank along with his other plans because the Elastic Clause gives Congress the authority to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper to fulfill its functions. Compromise was eventually reached whereby most of Hamilton's program would be supported. However, the nation's capital would be built on the Potomac River between Maryland and Virginia at a place we now know as Washington, D.C. This move would help Madison, who owned real estate in the area, while Virginia, the home state to both Madison and Jefferson, would benefit from the restructuring of government debts.